You truly don't appreciate something if you don't work for it. You don't. I'm sorry. If it's given to you easy, you just don't appreciate it as much as if you have to pay the price and really earn it. And that's one of the values today. I think gets a little lost in society. I think people are a little bit more entitled quicker. They want things quicker, right away. They don't want to wait. They don't want to climb the ladder. They don't want to pay the price. Expressions, sometimes you have to take a step back to take two steps forward, but you don't hear those things anymore today. Everything is instant gratification. I want it now. I want it. I want, I don't want to wait for it. And unfortunately, maybe it's causing a little bit of a devaluation of achievement today. And so you're right. I think this whole, oh, we have to be very careful. We can't offend anybody. We have to make everyone, give everyone a trophy. It's not, it doesn't build strong character.
What's doing, everybody? I'm Alec Lace. Thank you for watching First Class Fatherhood. Today's guest on the podcast is Major League Baseball legend Mike Piazza. Mike Piazza is a Major League Baseball Hall of Famer. He is also arguably the greatest hitting catcher of all time. It's a big honor to have him on the podcast. Get down there, smack the subscribe button, tap that like, and let's jump into it right now with Mike Piazza on First Class Fatherhood. Joining me now, First Class Father, Mike Piazza. Welcome to First Class Fatherhood.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
All right, let's hit it like this. How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
I have three kids. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and an 11-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old son.
Very cool. What kind of sports or activities are they all into?
Well, my oldest, as you well know, probably the pandemic has been tough for extracurricular activities. My oldest daughter wanted to run track. She was running track a little bit. Years ago, she was into ballet. She kind of grew out of that because I guess they get to a certain point where they have to do point shoes and it's kind of hard on the feet. And she was really into it. But then she started running a little bit, and she's just generally just trying to basically she's actually very well fit. And when things get quote unquote hopefully back to normal, we'll see if she's going to get into that again. My younger daughter, she is a dancer as well. They dance in Italy at a club there. They've been doing it online, Zoom stuff, and now I think it'll start back up probably in the fall. And my son right now is playing soccer. So he's playing calcio in Italy, and it's really good for him. I mean, obviously learning Italian and dealing with Italian coaches and players and things like that. So it's really funny to watch him to play out there. Eventually, I'll get him into baseball a little bit, but right now he's only 7. So I mean, I play catch with him, and he hits a little bit, but that's pretty much it on the athletic front.
Yeah, very cool, Mike. And if you could just take 1 minute here to hit my listeners with a little bit about your background.
Yeah, well, I'm originally from the Philadelphia area. I grew up in Chester County, Pennsylvania. My father is Italian American. He's was in the car. He's a car dealer. He was a car dealer. We're in the car business there, and real estate. My mother is from it's called Phoenixville, Pennsylvania. And I mean, I grew up in would be a typical 70s style suburban household. My mother was a devout Catholic, and she made sure we went to church every Sunday and did the sacraments. And my father was like any other typical dad at that time. Introduced baseball to myself, and it ended up getting better and working hard and becoming an all-state baseball player. Eventually found my way down to Miami, where I had a partial scholarship at the University of Miami. I didn't play that well there, but played there 1 year, and then I transferred to junior college, Miami-Dade, and I was signed by the Dodgers out of junior college. And 4 years in the minor leagues, and eventually made my way to the major leagues and had a pretty good run, had a pretty good career. I was very blessed.
Yeah, you had a legendary career, Mike. It's been exciting to watch you over the years. And along this journey that you did have, Mike, about how old were you then when you first became a father, and how did becoming a dad kind of change your perspective on life?
Well, that's interesting. I was pretty much a bachelor my whole career in the major leagues, and for a number of reasons. I mean, number one, it's a very difficult life to have a family. I was very dedicated, obviously, to my job, and I wanted to be kind of financially secure before I had, at least had a family. But I got later in my career. I think I had got married around 36 or 37. My wife's from California, and then a year later, we started our family. But yeah, I mean, I tell guys today that you don't have to be in a hurry. I mean, I know a lot of guys that had kids in their early 20s and mid 20s, guys I played with, but life expectancy is longer. I think we have we're more active in our later years, whereas years ago, maybe 50s and 60s would be considered old, and now it's not. So I tell guys all the time, make sure, number one, you're emotionally mature enough to have a family, also financially able to have a family, and then time wise, have the time to be able to put into a family as well, because children are very impressionable and they really just need you around. I mean, you don't have to be, my whole thing is you don't have to be perfect, you just have to be there.
Very well said, Mike. I talk about on my show all the time about the fatherless crisis that we have going on. We got so many kids that are growing up without a dad in their life, and it's having a devastating effect on our society. And those factors could be at play, just like you mentioned there. People that are having kids too young, that aren't ready, aren't married, aren't financially ready to do it, and they're leaving these responsibilities, and it's leaving a big void in our society. And how much would you say then, Mike, did starting a family, having kids, how much did that play into your retirement from baseball, or was it time for you to go? How much did having kids play into that?
Well, it was a little of both. I mean, I was kind of past my prime, and playing the position of catcher physically, it was a very demanding position. And yeah, I mean, I had my first daughter, I think it was 2007, and I decided to play one more year in Oakland. But I don't know if it was necessarily I just stopped because I was starting a family. If I could have pushed it another few years, I could have. But the game sometimes has a way of showing you the door, I always say. And my personality is such, I never wanted to be that last guy that, is at the party when the lights go on. I just kind of wanted to kind of do my thing and slide out I always love this expression, go out on your own terms. I don't think anybody really goes out on their own terms. I think it's a question of Mother Nature, and time kind of shows you the door. And then myself, I had a very high standard for myself. And then once I felt like I never really could achieve that level again, I didn't want to be like 60% of my former self. So I think you have to be, another thing is emotionally self-aware, and realize that as an athlete you can't play forever, and you have to go on to different things, and you should have different interests. And some guys go back to school, obviously some guys work, some guys go into broadcasting. Myself, coming from an entrepreneurial family, I was lucky that I had the business interests, like the car stores and real estate, and so I was able to kind of slide back into what I would call just normal life.
Yeah, good stuff, Mike. And then what would you consider to be the top values that you're hoping to instill in your kids as they grow up?
Well, I think, as you well know, probably girls and boys are a little different in the way you approach them. With my daughters, I just want to give them the confidence that they are good enough, and that they just have to. What I want to instill to them is basically that I'm always there for them. I want to show them discipline. I want to show them the importance of education and self-development. And then if you achieve these factors, hopefully as they mature in life, they'll achieve a like-minded mate eventually, someone who has those same values. I truly believe that we as human beings sort of find the level that we develop ourselves. And I years ago, I think you get into a situation where you can't really rescue someone. I think you have to kind of be strong yourself, and sort of undertake people for the way they are, and realize you can't change people. And with my son, boys are different. I mean, I think the stress level with girls is low early. They mature faster, and then as they get older, maybe the stress level increases. And with boys, they're stress, because they're so hyper, that maybe when they get older, I think the stress level decreases. So um, it's an interesting journey, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I adore my daughters. I mean, we really, and communication, I mean, is the big thing. I mean, I want to be there and have those difficult conversations about boys and things like that, which is not always easy, but I have to kind of be there because I want them to have the trust that they can approach me with those things.
Yeah, and Mike, talking about the differences, I have three boys and one girl. She's my baby. We got her on the end. So one thing that's different with me is the way that I discipline. I find myself disciplining my boys a lot different than I discipline my daughter. My wife constantly gets on me. I'm trying to improve where I don't give in all the time with my daughter. So what type of disciplinarian are you as a dad, and is that different than the discipline style that you grew up with?
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, my dad's discipline style that he grew up was a lot different than mine, but I mean we would get the smack occasionally, the reminder of that when we did do things wrong or screw up, we would get the physical discipline. Now obviously you can't do that. It's society has evolved and you have to be very careful. With girls, I think I try to get them to sort of take things internally and process it. And there's nothing wrong today with saying, look, this is wrong and I'm very disappointed in you. I think you have to use more logic and reason with girls. Boys, obviously, I still smack him on the butt occasionally if he needs it. I think that's harmless. I mean, I don't want to obviously you can't take it to the extreme, but I think that's just sort of a ruffling of the feathers, kind of hurting their pride a little bit, and letting them know who's in charge. They need to know who the boss is, and at that point, I think they kind of most kids will come back in line pretty well. But you're right. I mean, I think that the biggest thing is just to talk about it with the girls for me and just say, look, if they do this wrong or if they stay out past the time or they don't check in, I say, look, this is the rules. These are the rules of the house. When you have your own family and your own house, you could have your own rules. But as long as you're in this house, these are the rules. And if you don't abide by them, now what do? You just take their phone away, I guess. That's the ultimate discipline.
Yeah, we use that technology like currency around here. Yeah, you can get them to do just about anything for more screen time.
It's crazy. It's true. But I guess you got to use the tools you have, right?
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned there too that you grew up. Your mother was a devout Catholic. Mine was as well. I lost both of my parents before I became a dad myself. But that's one thing that I've carried over is my mother's, Catholic faith, and I bring that into my kids. How much of your parenting involves your faith with the kids?
Well, I'm happy to say that my oldest daughter just got confirmed this week. So we came back to Miami. It was an amazing ceremony. And yeah, I go by that expression in the Bible that, Jesus said, if you introduce children to me, then you too shall receive me. So it's the same thing I was talking about, the rules of the house. And my mom said, look, as long as you live in this house, you have to go to mass, you have to do the sacraments. And when you're on your own, you can do what you want to do. I don't have control of you then. And it's amazing how those things stick. And I, for myself personally, it gives me an incredible sense of peace. It kind of sets things in order. And then you realize when you go through a stressful time in life that it's all going to be okay. It's a great way of just dealing with the ups and downs of life. It was a great counsel for me when I was playing to get through those difficult times. And with my children, it's been an extremely rewarding experience because I feel that it's like any other relationship. I mean, your relationship with God is like any friendship. It's like any sort of thing you care about. If you really care about it, you put effort into it. And I think people maybe have this misconception that you're going to get hit by a lightning bolt and God's going to say, no, it's like any friendship. And I heard a great expression one time that says, don't make someone a priority when they make you an option. So it's the same thing with your faith life. If you're going to make it an option, God's not going to make you a priority. But if you make God a priority, then you're going to see it. And if your eyes are open, you'll see the benefits of it. I've seen it already. I mean, I've seen it in my kids. I see the way they understand morals and making the right decisions. And hopefully that will carry into their families as well.
Yeah, and I love what you say there, Mike, too, about putting the time into it. And I think, too, like, when we want to have careers, we take years studying to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a baseball player, but we don't put any time into practicing how to be a husband, how to be a father. So I think, especially, too, with faith, we put time into these things. I think the return on the investment is so much bigger than the time we put in. So I love what you say. I wanted to turn it over to baseball. I know right now, when I was a kid, Little League was a seasonal thing. We did it once, and that was it. Now it's a 365 days a year. Kids are out there playing baseball all year long. What kind of advice do you have? What kind of support did you get from your parents as your career developed? And what kind of advice do you have for the parents whose kids are looking to take baseball to the next level?
Well, that's a good question. I think again, the whole system has changed significantly. When you were a kid and I was a kid, we had Little League, and eventually went into junior high, and then high school baseball and American Legion, and now everything seems to be these travel teams, and it's very intense. I think that the kids today get a lot of very intense instruction and expectations at an earlier level. Whereas for us, we would play up until a certain point, and then we would go to the beach or go to the shore and have summers of fun and things like that. But now these kids play the whole summer. Uh, I don't know if it's good or bad. I mean, I think the body and children are very resilient, and they can take a lot of sort of intensive training. But on the same note, I also hope that kids be kids, and I tell parents all the time that a lot of kids who are probably good prospects, they just burn out because they get too much intensity too young, and they lose interest, or they become it's like a balance you have to strike. I mean, I guess it's a balance between activity and then rest and fun and school. So I don't envy these kids today. I mean, they juggle a lot, and there's a lot of expectations, and then you have social expectations, and a lot of them are on social media. And life was more simple when I was young, and it was just, play a little league game. We get a hot dog, we go to get a Slurpee, and then we go to the beach. I mean, now it's like they're on their computer all the time, and they're worried. They're talking with kids all over the country, and they're doing their TikToks and stuff, and it's weird. I mean, it's like something I can't relate to. So I mean, I tell parents, and a lot of parents come up to me talking about, my kid's he's a great player. He's going to do, and I'm like, I hope he does. I hope he turns out to be a major league player, but you do have to kind of bend, don't break. And I do see a lot of parents, unfortunately, I think, that have just broken their kids, or kids that have broken themselves because they just flame out when they need to just take more time to relax and enjoy life.
Yeah, good stuff, Mike. And then just because we're on the topic here, what do you think of these new rules that are in Major League Baseball now, as far as the doubleheader being 7 innings, and then also starting a guy on second base for extra innings? What's kind of your opinion on these new Major League Baseball rules?
I don't like them at all. I think it's just, I say it all the time. I don't want to come across as like, what's the word? I'm like judgmental, or just, but I don't know. It's, to me, it's not baseball in a way. It's like you start with a guy on, and you know, I'll never forget one time we went on this road trip where we went to Philadelphia, New York, Montreal, San Francisco, and Eric Karros's parents came on the trip and they traveled with us. And when we landed in San Francisco, they weren't even playing, and they looked like that they were, got hit by a truck. And Eric's dad said to me, "I don't know how you guys do this and play." And I said, "We just do it. You just have to get through it." And now everything is about, it just seems like and I don't mean this in a bad way, because they're not, what's the word I'm looking for? Soft, but they're very pampered. And I think part of athletics and baseball is you just got to grind. You have to go out there and grind. So I know they're in a lot of competition for the space with, other sports, and other sports are faster, and the attention span of society is a lot less today. I get that. But I think you just sometimes have to let it out there, and people will get on and understand it. I don't like those rules. I think it's not a good thing, but it's just my opinion.
Yeah, and obviously you crushed it in baseball yourself, Mike. What was it like for you to finally get inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and what was it like to share that moment with your family?
It was amazing. I mean, it was an amazing day, and I mean, again, I had to wait a few years. I waited a few years. I was getting closer and closer. But I tell people as well, sometimes that's good, because it made me appreciate it more. And when you go through a time to where you're getting frustrated because you don't feel like you're getting anywhere, or you're having a hard time, I say that's good. I mean, because you truly don't appreciate something if you don't work for it. You don't. I'm sorry. If it's given to you easy, you just don't appreciate it as much as if you have to pay the price and really earn it. And that's one of the values today. I think it's a little lost in society. I think people are a little bit more entitled quicker. They want things quicker, right away. They don't want to wait. They don't want to climb the ladder. They don't want to pay the price. Expressions, sometimes you have to take a step back to take two steps forward, but you don't hear those things anymore today. Everything is instant gratification. I want it now. I don't want to wait for it. And unfortunately, maybe it's causing a little bit of a devaluation of achievement today. And yeah, I think things come around in cycles, so I think eventually these things will come back to center.
Yeah, well said. I couldn't agree with you more. I think this every kid gets a trophy philosophy has been a colossal failure, and I think it's done more harm than good.
Well,
Uh,
it's funny you say that. A real quick story is my brother was on his little league team, and he was playing right field, and he went to go after a fly ball, and the ball hit him in the head and bounced up like 10 feet. And he said, from that moment on, I knew I had to be a lawyer. So it's like you find out by defeat, and there's lessons in frustration, and there's lessons in failure. And so you're right. I think this whole, oh, we have to be very careful. We can't offend anybody. We have to make everyone, give everyone a trophy. It's not, it doesn't build strong character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think like a guy like Michael Jordan got cut from his high school basketball team, and that lit a fire under him, and that could have changed the entire trajectory of his whole career. If that hadn't happened, then he just got, maybe he doesn't get that ignition there. You never know how that works out. So, and
Completely.
obviously you're going to go down. I mean, your legacy is secure in baseball, one of, if not the greatest hitting catcher of all time. But what do you want your legacy to be as a dad?
Wow. That's a deep question. Um, that I was just I was there. That's all. I wasn't perfect. I'm not perfect, but I think um, children just need you there. I mean, I tell guys all the time, you don't have to be perfect, but the little things mean a lot. Taking them to school, taking them to get ice cream, just listening to them, because you listen to the problems and you're like thinking, okay, this is not exactly rocket science. They're talking about the shoes they wear and things, and you're like, are you serious with this? But you have to you have to be there, and you have to listen, and they need to know you're there for them. And I believe this wholeheartedly, is that dependency builds independence. So the fact that they will be there for you and cling to you when they need you will allow them to, build their own lives. But if you're not there, they have nothing to cling to, then they'll be spending their whole lives searching for that thing they never got. And that's not a healthy life.
Yeah, well said, Mike. And then what are your plans or goals here for the future? What kind of projects you working on? What do you got coming up for you?
Well, as I said, we're in the car business in Philly. If you need a car, we'll give you a great deal. It's called Piazza Auto Group. We're online. You can look us up. My wife and I, we moved to Italy a few years ago, so it's really interesting to see my kids. They're fluent in Italian now. They're learning French. So it's been a challenge, obviously, the last year with the pandemic, traveling and things of that nature. But it's been it's an amazing experience living in Europe. Love coming back here for, to visit and holidays and things like that. I work with the Mets. We this year we're getting back into it with the pandemic, hopefully being behind us. So I do a lot with the alumni and community relations. So work with the sponsors with the Mets, and I really love my relationship with them. And that's about it, man. Just enjoying life, fine wine, good pasta, and it's just family, faith, family, and friends is my motto.
Yeah, right on with that, Mike. And the last thing I'm going to hit you with here, you may have touched on it a little bit as we were talking, but I love to ask all the dads that I get on the podcast, what type of advice do you have for that new dad or for that about to be father who's out there listening?
Uh, don't stress. Um, they're not going to break. Um, You're going to make mistakes. There's no perfect blueprint to being a good dad. That just be flexible, be patient, be kind, and just be there is the most important thing.
Yeah, very well said. I love the message. This has been an honor for me. I got to say, Mike Piazza, you're a first-class father all the way, and thank you so much for giving me a few minutes of your time here on First Class Fatherhood.
I hope to see you again. God bless, man.